Your dog does something today that you have seen 100 times. Maybe it was the way they dragged their body across the carpet the moment you turned your back. Maybe it was the frantic, spinning circle they made on their bed before collapsing into sleep. Or perhaps it was the quiet, unsettling stillness, the way they sat at the edge of the room and simply stared at nothing, at a wall, at empty air, as though they were watching something you could never see. You smiled. You probably laughed softly to yourself and called it silly, quirky, just one of those adorable things dogs do. But here is the truth, that most dog owners are never told. None of those behaviors are random, not a single one. Every odd, inexplicable, almost bizarre thing your dog does is a precise biological signal, a language so ancient, so deeply encoded into the architecture of the canine brain that it predates human civilization itself. And today, we are going to decode 15 of them, not with assumptions, not with folklore, but with the kind of neuroscientific and ethological precision that the world's leading researchers have spent decades uncovering in laboratories, from Budapest to Cambridge to Tokyo. Stay with us until the very end, because the final behavior on this list will permanently change the way you look at your dog. We begin with something every dog owner knows, that frantic, explosive burst of energy. Your dog suddenly sprinting in wild circles around the living room for no visible reason whatsoever, eyes wide, body low, completely disconnected from reality as you know it. You laughed. You called it the Zoomies. What is actually happening is something researchers at the University of Bristol's Anthrozoology Institute classify as Frenetic Random Activity Periods, or FRAPs. These episodes are not chaos. They are the canine nervous system executing a precise pressure release valve. When cortisol, the primary stress hormone, accumulates beyond a neurological threshold in the limbic system, the dog's brain initiates a full-body motor discharge sequence. The amygdala, the emotional processing core of the canine brain, signals the hypothalamus to release a cascade of endorphins, and the body responds with explosive, uncontrolled locomotion. Your dog is not being silly. Your dog is chemically resetting their entire emotional nervous system in real time. The second behavior is one that disturbs almost every new dog owner: grass eating. Your dog steps into the garden, ignores every toy, every smell, every invitation to play, and deliberately, methodically, begins consuming grass. Most people assume their dog has an upset stomach. Most people are wrong. The scientific discipline of geophagy, the deliberate ingestion of plant and earth material, has been documented in canines across every continent where wild canid populations have been studied. Research published in the journal Applied Animal Behavior Science, following a population of over 1,400 dogs, found that fewer than 9% of grass-eating episodes were preceded by illness. The dominant evolutionary theory, championed by Dr. Benjamin Hart at the University of California, Davis, proposes that ancestral canines consumed grass as a systematic internal parasite purge, the indigestible fiber mechanically stimulating intestinal contractions to expel helminthic parasites from the gastrointestinal tract. Your dog eating grass is not a sign of a sick animal. It is a sign of an animal still running ancient biological maintenance software. Third, the head tilt, that slow, elegant lean to one side when you speak in a certain tone. It is so visually charming that it has become one of the most shared images in the history of pet photography. But the neuroscience behind it is breathtaking. Researchers at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, led by cognitive ethologist Dr. Andrea Someza, demonstrated that the head tilt is a measurable neural focusing behavior. The canine auditory cortex, attempting to resolve ambiguous acoustic signals, particularly the emotional register embedded in human speech, physically rotates the ear canal through head movement to improve the angular reception of sound. Simultaneously, neuroimaging studies using fMRI on awake, unrestrained dogs show that specific emotionally loaded words activate the dog's left hemisphere, the language processing side, in a pattern that mirrors human linguistic response. Your dog is not performing cuteness. Your dog is working extraordinarily hard to understand you. Fourth, the inexplicable obsession with your dirty laundry. You leave a worn shirt on the floor. Your dog finds it within seconds, carries it to their bed, and curls around it as though it were the most valuable object on earth. This behavior is driven entirely by the vomeronasal organ, also called Jacobson's organ, a chemosensory structure embedded in the roof of the canine nasal cavity that processes chemical signals entirely outside the dog's conscious awareness. This organ is connected not to the olfactory cortex, where scent is consciously perceived, but directly to the limbic system, the emotional brain. Your scent molecules, specifically your apocrine secretions embedded in fabric fiber, trigger an oxytocin release in your dog's brain that neurochemically mimics the same bonding response a mother wolf experiences when scenting her newborn. Your old shirt is not laundry to your dog. It is the neurochemical equivalent of your presence, your warmth, your safety. Fifth, the circling before lying down. 3 rotations, sometimes 5, always deliberate, always before rest. Evolutionary behaviorists at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology have traced this as a vestigial nesting behavior carried forward from canine ancestors who lived in open grassland environments. The circular motion served 2 ancient purposes simultaneously. It compressed tall grass into a sleeping platform that provided insulation from ground temperature, and it allowed the animal to visually scan the full 360-degree perimeter for predator approach before entering the vulnerable state of sleep. Your dog has never slept in a field. Your dog has never needed to fear a predator. And yet 10,000 years of evolutionary memory persists in those quiet circles, a ghost of survival still living in the body of your beloved companion. 6. The way your dog stares at you while performing a bowel movement. It is one of the most universally noticed and least discussed dog behaviors among owners, and the explanation is both startling and deeply moving. During defecation, a dog is neurologically at its most physically vulnerable, immobile, postured downward, entirely unable to respond to threat. In the wild, this would be a moment of acute predation risk. The prolonged eye contact your dog seeks during this moment is a direct expression of pack-level trust. Your dog is placing the responsibility of vigilance entirely in your hands. That gaze is not awkward. That gaze is your dog saying, without language, without ambiguity, I trust you completely with my life. 7th, the subtle, quiet behavior researchers call left gaze bias. When your dog looks at a human face, their eyes instinctively travel to the right side of the human face, which is processed through the dog's left visual hemisphere. This is not random. Studies conducted at the University of Lincoln, published in the journal Current Biology, demonstrate that this leftward gaze is a specific neurological adaptation to reading human, emotional signals, because in human faces, the right side carries a disproportionately higher load of genuine emotional expression. Your dog has evolved, over thousands of years of cohabitation with humans, to read your emotional truth with a precision that most humans cannot consciously match. 8th, the yawn that appears at the completely wrong moment. You raise your voice slightly in frustration. Your dog yawns. You interpret this as indifference, even arrogance. You are misreading one of the most sophisticated calming signals in the entire ethological literature. Norwegian canine behaviorist Turid Rugas, whose foundational work on calming signals has been replicated across behavioral science institutions worldwide, documented the yawn as a primary appeasement gesture, a neurologically generated de-escalation signal that the dog both deploys to calm a perceived threat and directs inward to regulate their own rising cortisol. Your dog is not dismissing you. Your dog is doing everything in their power to lower the emotional temperature of the room for both of you. 9th, the obsessive licking of surfaces, walls, floors, and furniture. If this behavior appears suddenly and persistently, the science points somewhere unexpected. Research published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior by Dr. Nicholas Dodman and his team at Tufts University found that compulsive surface licking is statistically correlated in over 70% of studied cases, with underlying gastrointestinal dysfunction, specifically delayed gastric emptying, and conditions of the duodenum. This is not a behavioral quirk. This is your dog's body using the licking reflex, which triggers increased salivation and swallowing, creating a temporary acid buffer to manage internal physical discomfort it cannot otherwise communicate to you. When your dog will not stop licking the floor, listen closely. Their body is speaking in the only clinical vocabulary it has. 10th, the way your dog brings you a gift when you come home. A sock, a toy, a shoe. It does not matter what it is. The object itself is irrelevant. What is happening is a controlled displacement of the neurological excitement surge that arrival triggers in the canine limbic system. The dopamine and adrenaline release generated by your return is so intense that the dog's brain requires an immediate motor outlet to prevent the emotional system from overloading. Carrying an object engages the prefrontal motor cortex, redistributing neural energy away from the pure arousal centers and into controlled, purposeful action. Your dog is not bringing you a present. Your dog is managing an almost overwhelming flood of joy and channeling it into the most loving gesture their neurology can produce. 11th, the chasing of the tail. In puppies, this is an expression of incomplete proprioceptive mapping. The young brain has not yet fully established spatial awareness of its own body boundaries. In adult dogs, however, persistent tail chasing is documented in veterinary neurology as a CORD, potential marker of compulsive disorder rooted in the basal ganglia, the same neural structures implicated in OCD spectrum conditions in humans. A dog who chases their tail occasionally is exploring their world. A dog who chases their tail compulsively is asking for help. The difference matters enormously. 12th, the sleeping position with all four legs extended straight into the air. Owners photograph this. They laugh warmly. They call it ridiculous. What it represents is the highest possible expression of psychological safety a dog can demonstrate within a domestic environment. The supine position, belly fully exposed, all defensive musculature completely relaxed, the soft tissue of the throat and abdomen entirely unprotected, is neurologically impossible for an animal carrying even residual threat perception. When your dog sleeps like this, in your home, in your presence, their brain has completely deactivated the amygdala's threat monitoring function. Your home is not just shelter to your dog. Your home is the safest place their ancient mind has ever known. 13th, the way your dog presses their entire body weight against your legs, not jumping, not demanding, simply leaning, heavily, quietly, with a kind of profound deliberateness. This behavior, it's documented extensively in attachment theory research applied to canines by Dr. John Bradshaw at the University of Bristol, is a physical expression of secure attachment bonding. The sustained body contact triggers a mutual oxytocin release in both the dog and the human, a neurochemical event identical in its hormonal signature to the bonding response between a human parent and infant child. Your dog is not being needy. Your dog is physiologically completing a bond that evolution designed to run, unbroken, between your two species. 14th, the way your dog chooses to sleep touching you, a paw across your ankle, a chin resting on your foot, a body pressed against the length of your leg. In wild canid packs, physical contact during sleep serves a dual thermoregulatory and social bonding function. Sleeping in contact communicates pack membership, shared territory, and mutual protection. When your dog seeks physical contact with you during sleep, they are placing you inside the innermost definition of their pack, not as an owner, not as a provider, as family. And the 15th behavior, the one we promised would change everything, the long, quiet gaze, not during feeding time, not before a walk, not in a moment of need, just, sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary evening, your dog looks at you, slowly, steadily, for longer than seems necessary. For years, scientists believed this was a dominance or submission display carried over from wolf-pack dynamics. Then, in 2015, a landmark study by Dr. Takefumi Kikusui at Asabu University in Japan, published in the journal Science, changed this entire field. When dogs and humans engage in prolonged mutual eye contact, both species experience a measurable surge in oxytocin, the same neurochemical that drives maternal bonding in mammals. The dog's brain evolved this response, specifically in relationship with humans. Wolves, even when raised by humans, do not share this response. It is not a learned behavior. It is a biological adaptation that emerged across 10,000 years of shared life. Your dog's nervous system literally rewiring itself to bond with yours through something as simple and as profound. Will. That quiet gaze is not your dog asking for something. That quiet gaze is your dog loving you in the oldest, most hardwired, most chemically real way that nature knows how to love. What we have explored today is not a list of cute quirks. It is the architecture of one of the most extraordinary interspecies bonds ever to emerge on this planet. Every circle before sleep, every yawn in a tense moment, every stolen sock carried proudly to your feet. These are not oddities. They are the living vocabulary of an animal whose biology, across millennia, has been quietly, persistently, irreversibly shaped around you. You changed them, and they, in ways science is only beginning to fully understand, have changed you too. If this moved something in you, if you have ever looked into your dog's eyes and felt something you could not quite name, then you already understand what the science is only now catching up to. This is Canine Mind and Care. We exist for the owners who believe their dog deserves to be truly understood, not just loved, but known. Subscribe if that is who you are. And in the comments below, tell us, which behavior does your dog do that you never had words for until today?